news came from IRCC yesterday. Categories, right? We were all expecting categories. We were all thinking what is going to happen, what is not going to happen. Will STEM be taken away? Will transport be taken away? Will agriculture and pilot be taken away? Well, of course, now the clarity is here. The big confusion that happened was caused not by anything else, but by this particular page, if you know what I mean, in terms of IRCC's, why can't I? Yeah, this one, right? If you can see my screen, of course you can. And this is where the biggest issue happened, right? This was the immigration levels plan that was announced last year, October. And actually, IRCC announced this a bit sooner than later. This was the supplementary information for 2025 immigration levels plan, This was announced, as I said, October 24, a week earlier than what was anticipated. And I'm just going to scroll down very quickly, right? So that you all understand what we're talking about. We're talking about federal economic priorities. This is where the categories come under. So they made a new group called the Federal Economic Priorities, and then they make a separate group called In Canada Focus. Now, In Canada Focus, as we came to know later on, what they meant, if I click here on number 6 here, it said primarily admissions from the Canadian experience class and other regional immigration pathways, but may also come from skilled workers and skilled trade. But they said may also come, but from what we understand, it is primarily going to be the Canadian experience class. But this federal economic priorities is what we were most interested in. 41,700 slots were allotted to this. And when we were to click on this, there you go. It said includes admissions for eligible candidates with specific skills, training, and language ability in order to be responsive to labor market needs. I guess this is going to be the main key factor as we talk about different things. Through categories established by the Minister of Immigration in the express entry system, the 2025, this is where we were all concentrating, right? These 3 categories. The 2025 categories include, it did not say, now this is what we all missed. Everybody missed this. It said include. It did not say that these are the only categories. It said healthcare occupations, trade occupations, and French language proficiency. And it said categories are established each year, informed by the labor market information and projections. So this is the basis for the entire, if you want to call it, the gamut that was presented to us in terms of the categories. And we were all obviously thinking that the categories are going to be only trade, healthcare, and francophones. Before I continue, guys, please do not do super chats. I will not be taking any questions. I cannot take any questions because we've already running very short on time. So please don't do super chats. So therefore, don't spend that money. YouTube takes most of it anyway. So please don't spend your money. I will not be taking questions. For questions, we'll do it tomorrow. Live stream, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, when we do the complete weekly roundup. That's when we will take the questions. So today, we will just concentrate on this hot subject for the day. Actually, it's for yesterday, but I'm a bit late to the party. But hey, you know what? I managed to get much more information and understanding of this whole process. So finally, yesterday, IRCC dropped this bombshell where they said that they are now announcing 2025 express entry categories basically. And in this was on the February 27th, which was yesterday. Basically, just PR language. When I'm saying PR, I mean public relation language. Nothing here which you would be very interested in. But this was dropped earlier, and then after, I think, about an hour or so, they updated the website, which would have the categories itself. So this came in the morning, and then obviously here also, they did not talk about any of the categories, right? So we were still thinking it's the same thing. And they said strong French language and work experience in healthcare, social services, trades such as carpenters. And then this is where it made an entry, education. Now, education, I'm not sure if you've seen my previous videos, but we have spoken about education before. This was the category that IRCC wanted to include in this year's category draws, the education. And there was a public discussion. So they announced that they wanted to include this. They invited discussions from the stakeholders, from the general public. And as far as people were concerned, we never got to see the response, of course not, right? So IRCC conducts these research, conducts these discussions internally. And then we did see a memo, which also was shared by Stephen Murins through the ATIP notes. And even in that memo, it did not say if it has been approved. It just said that the education category may be considered. So this was obviously a new category that was being created, again, keeping in mind the labor market priorities. But while this was not confirmed, again, because of the immigration levels plan, immigration levels plan announcement, we were still struggling whether education would be included. But now, yesterday, when they announced this, so we know for a fact. Now, what has happened? What is the big changes? Well, first of all, before I go into the changes, I have seen all those comments that the snide remarks, the funny ones, the witty ones, what does the STEM stand? And we will go into that, of course, right? That's what the whole video is about. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, what does this category draw is all about? Category draw, and bear with me, right? I will play the devil's advocate for a minute. So category draws are supposed to be to cater to the labor market priorities, right? Now, last year also, there were a couple of knock codes which were funny. So just last week, we did a seminar in Mississauga, and I was announcing these categories, which were very interesting. One was educational counselor, but they were still included in the healthcare, and I never understood why, but it was pretty cool. And there were a couple of, I guess that was the most standout knock code there. And in the most recent change, which has been announced yesterday, there are a couple of other knock codes which are creating lots of flutter around. So, before I keep going with this, let's talk about what those knock codes are. There you go. So these are the category. So I'm sure you can all find the link. By now, you must have all gone through the link. You must have already seen what the different categories are. So if I go onto this website, which is the IRCC website, they are saying these are now the current categories: French language proficiency, healthcare and social services occupation. So that is a change. Earlier, it was only healthcare. Now it is healthcare and social services occupation. This is where I think IRCC is getting the most flack, and this is the science, technology, engineering, and math occupations, which is STEM. And then, of course, you have the trade occupations, agriculture and agri-food occupations, and education occupations. So it is still 6 categories, just like before. Earlier, we also had a transport category, which had about, I think, 10 knock codes, if I remember correctly. That has been shown the door. And instead of the transport category, now you have the education occupations. Now, of course, by now, you all know what does French language proficiency means, right? If you are able to score level 7 in all 4 factors in your French language proficiency exam, then you would be eligible for the Francophone category draws as and when they happen. And we have seen they have maintained some consistency there, approximately once every month. Healthcare. Now, this is where it became very, very interesting, right? Now, in healthcare, everybody is very happy to see one knock code which was earlier excluded. So if I very quickly go through this, of course, these are all these knock codes which were earlier included as well. But there was one. I know this one is of a particular interest to a lot of people who are pursuing the PSW courses in Canada, because they all think that after completing personal support worker courses, they would be able to get a job as a nursing aide. So this one, inclusion of this is very, very important. Of course, it helps. Then there were this knock code, which was earlier for some reason excluded. They had the pharmacy assistant, but they did not have pharmacist in the previous category. So this is now included. So I'm sure everybody in healthcare was quite happy to see this being included, and everything else pretty much remained the same. I think there were another 1 or 2 knock codes that have also been taken off, but I'm sure most of you would be able to figure that out anyways. STEM. Now, this actually is the most interesting one. Why? Because they chose to remove all except this IT tech knock codes, right? I mean, I understand the STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Well, they did still include cybersecurity specialists. So the technology bit is still present there in STEM. I know a lot of you found the funny part of this. There are no mathematicians included. But you see, at the end of the day, when they call it STEM, they are using it as a broad umbrella structure and then listing all the occupations that might be related under it. But what draw the biggest surprise factor, or what sort of This one has pretty much shocked everybody. Inclusion of insurance agents and brokers, knock code 63100, tier code category 3, under the STEM category. I mean, like, you wonder why IRCC? Why would you, first of all, include insurance agents? I mean, do you really have a shortage of insurance agents in Canada? Pretty interesting, right? And also including it under STEM is like really, rubbing salt onto the wounds of all these IT tech individuals who are really, really hoping that while IRCC is saying no STEM, but because there is no direct announcement that there is no STEM, that there might still be a possibility there. So this one, insurance agents and brokers, is a brain fade moment. At least that's what I would think, right? But then, hey, if you are an insurance agent, you should be rocking happy, because this is brilliant, right? All this time you thought you had no chance as far as Express Entry was concerned because the scores are so high. But there you go. This is your chance. This is your chance to shine and to come through. But this is pretty much it. They have included 11 knock codes. Earlier there were about, I think, 24 knock codes, if I'm not wrong, about 24 knock codes. So they have removed about 15 knock codes, 14 knock codes, if you want to call it, from this category. And most of the IT tech knock is gone. It's sad, I know, but hey, at the end of the day, the whole point of the category draws is to cater to the labor market priorities. So if you're catering to the labor market priorities, well, then you will identify. But this is where I find it very, very strange, right? You're catering to the labor market priorities, which basically means that you want all these individuals to come and fill up the shortage that is available in the market. But you, Canada, you do not allow dentists and doctors and pharmacists and engineers. You don't allow them, even insurance agents, you don't allow them to come and work in Canada without certification and licensing, which in most cases takes years to get through. Lots of studies, lots of examinations, lots of verifications, lots of document credential equivalency not accepted. After all that, when you say that you really wanted, this whole point of this whole thing is labor market shortage, this thing I just can't gulp down my throat sometimes, when these two things just don't tally and they don't make sense. So if you really had this category draws thinking that this will be able to cater to the labor market shortage, then you should have also then added the fact that they are going to be able to start working in Canada, or that this would accompany with some sort of certification program which they will be able to complete and directly come into Canada. That is not thought of. So this is where our government has been stuttering and stammering and falling all over themselves and trying to make these decisions to look pretty, to basically cater to the Canadian public and say, hey, this is what we are trying to do. We're getting you people who really will cater to the market needs, but this doesn't make sense, right? So anyways, so we will save my rant for a different day. Right now, we're going to talk about only the categories that are there. So this was the STEM. Then the trade occupations. So earlier trade occupations were much smaller in number, as in the total numbers. I think about only 10 categories there, 10 occupations there. But this time they have really added about 15 more in the list. And you have roofers and shinglers, which have made a comeback. Concrete finishers making a comeback, or not making a comeback, but now appearing on this. You have cabinet makers, you have bricklayers. I'm not sure. Yeah, sheet metal workers. These were not there. But you know what is the most surprising again, which has thrown everybody into a bit of a tizzy again, and this is cooks. First of all, how do cooks become tradespeople, right? Tradesperson. How? But now that you have included the cooks, but I understand, and they probably are looking at the major group and the subgroup of the tier categories or the knock codes, the way the knock codes are designed, the category of the knock codes is what can establish the trade, whether they come into trades or not. But cooks, do you really have shortage of cooks? And you thought cooks were better in terms of shortage than the chefs. So you've not included the chefs. So chefs, I think you have plenty, Canada, but cooks you certainly don't, because hey, every Subway, every Tim Hortons, every McDonald's, and every Jack Astor's and Turtle Jacks and Moxies, and I'm just naming some of them on top of my head, but then there are plenty more. Apparently, they all need cooks, and we don't have enough cooks. So therefore, cooks, again, a very curveball, if you want to call it. This again, I didn't understand at all. But you know what? To hell with whether I understand it or not. If you are a cook, okay, and if you have 6 months of experience anywhere in the world, it doesn't matter where you have your 6 months of experience, you are now eligible in this category draw under the trades category. Isn't that awesome? I mean, Canada, well done, bravo. I mean, you've just shown what your real labor market shortage is all about. But this is what you are. You've got trades, and then you have the agriculture and agri-food occupations. 3 knock codes earlier made appearance in this one. 2 have been removed. Now you only have butchers, only retail and wholesale butchers. They are still included. Education occupations. This was a new one, and a total of 5 knock codes have been included, 5 occupations: elementary and secondary school teacher assistants, instructors of persons with disabilities, early childhood educators and assistants, elementary school and kindergarten teachers, secondary school teachers. This is a big one. And also, this also does not sit in my understanding. Again, you have labor market shortage. Excellent. I understand that. And you want to fill that labor market shortage. Great. We understand that. But how does this help, right? And the reason why I'm saying how does this help is because they need license, they need certification. So if you are a teacher outside in the world and you're coming to Canada because they have a labor market shortage, can you teach? No, you can't. You need teaching license. You need teaching certificate. If you're an early childhood educator elsewhere, can you come and practice? No, you can't. You need a license. You need certification. So these things continue to sort of baffle me in the sense of how they identify these knock codes, and if they are, which is a good thing because I'm sure there is genuine need and genuine shortage. That's the reason why these have been included. Then they should also make it easier for these individuals to come to Canada and practice their occupations and allow Canada to take advantage and benefit of their work experience, which they already have. We do not want to see another cliched statement like doctors are driving Ubers in Canada or engineers are driving Ubers in Canada, because I think we have plenty of Uber drivers already. But so it doesn't make sense if you are allowing all these experienced and qualified professionals to come to Canada and practice their profession, but yet you will not allow them, you will not equip them to practice their occupation. So this is something which, I mean, again, I'm not sure who the people in the power are and what exactly they are thinking and how they are processing this. But if this is only to make themselves look good in front of the Canadian public, well, bravo, you guys have done a good job. But other than that, when you have these category occupations, you must also equip these individuals to come and practice those occupations faster, smoother, easier, in an easier manner, rather than, they will be coming here and then most of them would not be working in their occupations anyway. So I don't know what exactly is the point of this whole exercise, but there you go. This is what we have it. And these are the categories, and this is what you need to know. Now, obviously, so many questions, so many things. Somebody says you are not correct with ECEs. Well, okay, early childhood educators, you still need a license. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me and tell me that you don't need a license to practice as an early childhood educator in Canada. You do, in my opinion. At least that's what I thought the last time I have seen. Assistants of early childhood educators, they might not need a license or certification, but they can work as assistants. But early childhood educators, from what I last checked, you still do need a license or certification. Now, the next one on top of my head then is what's going to happen with the express entry draws, right? So let's very quickly take a look at this as well. This one here shows you that the labor market priorities, or the federal economic priorities, as they have indicated, the number is given as 41,700. Of course, it's a range. So the number has to be between 30,000 to 62,000. So they can go right up to 62,000. I doubt very much they're going to go through that number, but yeah, approximately that. And then they have said overall French-speaking permanent resident admissions outside Quebec, 29,325. So this 29,325 is included in this 41,700, as well as there would be certain other individuals within this group who might get invited through the In Canada Focus or through some other categories in PNP programs or Atlantic immigration programs as well. But this is the francophones that you're looking at, 29,325. Now, just to clarify one more time, because I know sometimes it gets a bit confusing with these things. The total expected total economic target for the francophones who will come to Canada, who will be outside Quebec, is approximately 29,000 people. So now 29,000 people, they could be part of the category draws, they could be part of the regular CEC draws, they could be part of some other categories as well of the economic pathways. This does not mean that 29,325 that is included doesn't mean that all 29,325 will be invited only through the category draws. That could be spread out. So that's one. Number two, earlier they never had identified any specific quotas or numbers for the categories at all. Now they do. And while that they do have this, they will be drawing all the categories from this particular pool of the quotas that they have. Now, these quotas that they have of 41,700, these are not the number of invitations, these are the number of people. Now, these number of people that they have could basically means lesser number of ITAs, because one ITA could translate into several people, partners, children, etc. So that's what you have to now bear in mind. So what this does is, now that you have 6 categories that you want to invite people from, and you have very clear priority for francophones, because that is also included here, and of course they could be invited from some other numbers as well, but largely francophone. So that tells you that when they do conduct the draws, first of all, don't expect miracles with these draws, in the sense like, don't expect lots of draws first of all, and don't expect large size draws for all of them, because with only 41,700, that's not a very big number to play with. And remember, 41,700 is number of people, and it is not number of ITAs. A lot of people confuse this to number of ITAs. That is the first thing. So now you have 6 categories. You have lots and lots of occupations. Nobody knows how many people are there in the pool with different occupations, work experience, right? No, we don't know. But one thing is for sure. Last express entry draw that happened under the healthcare was at 463. That was already a very high score, 463 for a category draw. Now that they have made a little bit of these changes, pharmacists included, insurance agents included, and of course, more and more people have now managed to gain that work experience that they were looking for. A lot of people have changed occupations. A lot of people have managed to fit their roles to align with these occupations. So expect the scores not to be low. The scores will be high. So expect the scores to be on a higher side of things, number one. Number two, similarly with the trade occupations, the last express entry draw, I think 436 or 437. I don't recall it correctly, but that was the number. Don't expect the scores to drop, expect the scores to go up. Now you also have some more occupations. Under the trades, earlier there were only 10, I think. Now you have approximately 25, was it? Yeah, about 25 occupations. And of course, you also have, 25 occupations. And you also have cooks who, to be very honest, now again, somebody just commented, and I would like to just point something out. Cooks are hardworking people. Well, I am not denying the fact that they are hardworking people. I am not saying that they're not hardworking people. My only chuckle was about them being included under the trade occupations. Okay, that is what the only thing is. And also, if you are going to say that cooks are in shortage in Canada, then that makes me think, really, I mean, is it really the case, or have they got that one wrong, in the sense of, so this is not to question somebody's work ethics. This is not to question how hard somebody works. Every single person who is in every single of these categories, they are all hardworking individuals. You cannot point out one. I mean, I'm not going to say that insurance agents are not hardworking individuals. They are all hardworking individuals, because they all have to get their license. They all have to get their customers, clients. They all have to sell their services. It's not easy. Somebody also said that lots of people are, this is another one, that there is a heavy retirement happening in this sector, and they want to fill the labor gap by calling these professionals. Well, again, I don't agree with this one, that there is a lot of heavy retirement happening. Even if there is a lot of heavy retirement happening, lots of people are also becoming insurance agents. And at the end of the day, you still need license and certification. So it's not like you will bring out insurance agents from outside Canada and they will automatically start practicing in Canada, right? So that never ties up. And if you really wanted only licensed insurance agents to start working in Canada, then that should be the requirement as well, which it is not. So anything that I've said in terms of cooks or insurance agents or for some other categories as well, it has got nothing to do with them not being hardworking. Don't try to look for negativity or snides when there isn't any. My question is about them being included in certain categories and whether there really is a specific shortage. As far as IT tech knock codes are concerned, right? So many people were like, how come they removed that, and doesn't Canada need IT tech or not? Well, what has happened is, if you actually take a look at the previous year's records, each year in and out, as and when they have invited permanent residents to Canada, the top 10 categories of people who have actually been able to come to Canada as permanent residents, the top 10 occupations, of which you will see most of them were IT professionals. And IT professionals are able to have that advantage. One is because a lot of them are in Canada on ICT work permit. So they always have the advantage of foreign work experience, Canadian work experience, and then they also have the advantage of the arranged employment or the job offer. So year on year, you can see the 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, all their data points. And you pick up the top 10 knock codes that actually became permanent residents for each year, and you will see they were all IT tech knock codes. All right. So, and of course, last year has taken a big hit in terms of the IT recession. IT industry has been grappling with a lot of job losses as well. So if IRCC has now chosen to remove those occupations for the time being, because these are not permanent, right? You can always see a comeback. Maybe a year later, they will change the occupations all over again. Or even in the middle of the year, they can add or remove some occupations. So that is not a problem. But year on year, as and how we will move, you will see some occupations being removed, some new categories coming in. But at this point of time, what I've shared with you are the new categories who are going to be ruling the roost. But this also then brings to my mind the fact that OINP, Ontario, has always played in tandem with Express Entry, right? So whenever they wanted to conduct the skilled trade draw for their occupations, they would play it 1 point less than the last Express Entry draw for that category. Will they still play the same? Because I don't see much change happening with the skilled trade draw if Ontario is to conduct a draw. I don't see much change happening with Ontario's healthcare draw if Ontario is to conduct a healthcare draw. Now, STEM is where the whole thing changes. Ontario has never included the engineering knock codes by and large under their tech, under the tech draw, under the human capital priorities, or even when they were identifying priority occupations under the international student stream or under the employer job offer stream, when they invited specific categories, even then, engineers was not something that they were always highlighting or inviting, until they did once, which was late last year, when they suddenly out of the blues invited some very generic knock codes, including management knock codes, advertising knock codes, professional business accounting knock codes, and some engineering knock codes, and leaving the IT tech roles out. Do they know something that obviously which we are not privy to about how the labor market is performing? I don't know at this point of time. This is something we have to wait and watch as we move into the future and how this continues to roll out. But will Ontario conduct a tech draw under the human capital priorities? Now, that is a very big question, which I don't think anybody has an answer to at this point of time. Ontario is yet to announce their immigration quotas for this year. They are the only ones, I think, who haven't still announced that number. Was their number reduced? Was their number the same? That is going to be a big one. They haven't really restarted their program for this year. Maybe they were waiting for these categories to be announced. Maybe they were looking to see which categories are being included and can they take something out of this and apply it on their roles as well. A lot to wait and see kind of a thing here at this point of time. But these are the new categories. This is now what you know. Biggest thing, identify a knock code where you think you can gain 6 months of work experience. Gain that 6 months of work experience. And when the draws happen, you might be eligible. Just bear one thing in mind. Don't expect a flutter of category draws. Don't expect that these draws will happen frequently. There isn't enough quotas or targets to accommodate all of these occupations. And when it happens, don't let that ITA go. Don't make mistakes with your R10s or application submissions, because that's at R10 when you get a rejection and that number never comes again. That is the most painful, and I've seen it happening plenty of times. That's what I have for you today in today's update. I know there are several questions. I know a lot of you have done super chats. I told you already in the beginning, please don't do super chats. I will not be able to do or take any questions. I will, however, take lots and lots of your questions tomorrow when we do a live stream, talk more about these categories, talk more about what's happened in Canada within the immigration within this 1 week. Join me tomorrow for my live stream when I unroll and unravel all those secrets and updates and whatever is going on in our live stream tomorrow. I will see you then. Take care and stay forever hopeful.